I would love to hit the record button. You
All
should
right,
be going now.
thank you, Dale. Welcome everyone to the June 29th call of MVP Office Hours. This is not our regularly scheduled programming because we moved it up a week because of July 4th weekend. We didn't want people to miss out, so we wanted to give you this opportunity. So it's a little bit of a different day, but people are logging in, so that's fantastic. You've got our first, our official events slide there that we show every call. I'm Jackie Travieso. Co-hosting with me today is Dale Ziegler, and I believe Jared was called away to a meeting. He may or may not be able to join us, but if he does, I'm sure he will announce himself, so we'll cross our fingers. Anyway, we've got the events listed there that all the Dreamforces and the Witness Success and all of the different things that are coming up. Hopefully everyone is aware that Dreamforce registration opened. Good luck finding hotels that are not miles and miles away, or see if you can maybe room with somebody is always a fun, interesting idea, depending on how well you know the person. And let's see, what else do we need to say about Dreamforce? Oh, call for speakers are open as well.
Yep, call for speakers is open, but going back to the hotel thing, always go back in and log back in, because they do reopen hotel, like small blocks of the closer hotels. You also have cancellations. With cancellation, the hotel room is automatically canceled as well. So if you hit it at the right time, you might get something much closer than where you were. And it's not at the risk of losing your current hotel room. So they make sure that if you already have accommodations, you still have accommodations, but you could still upgrade. So always be going back in to look.
Interesting, Dale. Have you ever done that? Have you ever changed out your hotel? Because I was always fearful of trying that for fear I'd be now 13 miles away instead of 1 mile away.
I did last year. I was on the other side of 101, and a fellow MVP, we coordinated it, but it just goes to, if you hit it at the right time, fellow MVP canceled her room because she was then local at that point, and it opened up.
Okay. All right.
And good. you confirm your new room before you lose your old room.
Take screenshots, y'all, if you have to do that, just so you have the backup just in case. All right, well, good. Thank you so much for sharing that, Dale, because I've always been fearful of trying that. Okay, let's go ahead and advance our slide. And for those of you who are new first-time callers, we hold these calls the first and third Friday, unless there's a holiday weekend. Our next call will be the 20th of July. We do have our standard bit.ly there for MVP Office Hours, where you can always go in and register for the next call. This is a Q&A discussion, so there's no other formality to it. You ask your question and we talk about it, see if we can give you some pointers, share experiences, maybe even share some gotchas, or don't do that because I did it and I failed at it. Sometimes we talk about approaches, sometimes we give recommendations on resources or other people within the community who we know have experienced the same topic that you're asking about. We don't really go into troubleshooting code or any really specific in-depth automation, because sometimes that can go for a very long time. So we ask that you put those types of questions in community and then maybe point us to them, and then you'll get the entire world to chime in and give you some feedback on your question. So it doesn't get any bigger than global, right? We are recording today's presentation or today's call, and it'll be posted on community and Twitter. If you haven't already, if you can go ahead and mute yourself just so that we don't have any background noise, that would be great. You should be able to mute and unmute yourself as you have questions or want to chime in. Announce yourself, if you will, so that we can identify voices with names. And then everybody is welcome to share their experiences. Please, if you know something or can add something, even if it's food for thought, it doesn't have to be the solution, chime in and let us know, because it's how we get to that ultimate answer, is everybody's recommendations or thoughts. So please go ahead and do that. You can use the chat to post your question, your resources, links, anything can go in there as well. You can also use the raise your hand in the chat, and we'll call on you that way. If there's dead silence and you want to just chime in and ask a question, that's fine as well. So, but if you want to kind of get in the queue, you can do that using the chat window. And we can now do a screen share. So if you want to show something particular in your org and get some feedback, we can do that. I just say, be cautious. You want to make sure that you're not showing us live data. You might want to jump into a sandbox. Hopefully you're doing your builds in sandbox, and show us there. And just remember that this is being recorded, and everybody can see your screen. So with that, hey, we've got our first question. Marty, go ahead, unmute yourself and ask away.
Hi, this is Marty. I have two quick questions. First is opinion. Any reason not to use the state and country pick list option?
There are downstream limitations. I don't remember what they are exactly when you activate them, but there are downstream limitations.
I'm about to set up new, I'm setting up new data tomorrow. And I'd done it before, but just in case there was something that someone had an opinion
on. I will say from a...
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say the first thing that I would do is investigate and make sure that the state and country works with Lightning, because I think you've moved to Lightning, haven't you?
Yeah.
So see if that's supported. The next thing I would investigate, because I believe I ran into this situation where it causes a problem, is when you've got your own sites set up. So if you're using like mycompany.salesforce.com, I think that there is an issue there, and I cannot remember exactly what it was.
Okay. I've been doing a search, so I'll check that out. Thank you. Second question has to do with campaign with members and attendance. And I'm creating a report, and I can't believe this isn't sort of a standard thing before I make it more harder than it is. So they need to know how many people attended. I have a campaign with a couple of children for different meetings, and we want a percentage of attendance for each child, and then at the total level, and then by person.
So you can achieve that by, first of all, you'd need to manipulate the status, the campaign stat, or the member status. You would need to add a pick list value that says attended, because I don't think that's a default. So
right, thank you. I've done that, and I've done a no-show.
Okay, so then I would build formula fields on the campaign itself that looks at your total campaign members, and whatever the math is.
Yep.
Or attendees divided by campaign members.
Okay. Yeah, I was about to do that and just wanted to check that there wasn't a better way.
Yeah, that's how I've done it in the past, and I've done all kinds of ROI calculations right on the campaign itself. Now that was way back before Lightning, but it should still work the same.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
And back to your other question. I'm sorry. Did you go ahead, Dale?
I was going to switch back to the other question.
Okay.
Of the state and country pick list.
Fantastic. Let me Scott Newton, if you can hear me, I'm going to unmute you and ask you, was it you and I that were having the problem with the state and country pick list where you're using the My Domain? Do you remember that?
We have had so many issues with the state and country pick lists. I don't remember if that was one in particular.
So is the option just to create your own pick list?
If I could go back in time, I think I would have. Yeah,
okay.
I've regretted moving to the standard pick list. They're horrible to maintain as well.
Okay, thank you.
So something else. So I found the implementation guide, which does call out limitations, one of which is flow. It doesn't play well with flow at all. Before state and country pick lists, well, they were already a thing. It was a workaround. I had actually built kind of a background application, if you will, that it still used the text values for state and country, and then I just had a custom object in the background that essentially normalized that information. If like I live in Kansas, so I would see KS, KAN, KANS, KANSAS, whatever. And my company just adopted that KS was the way to go. So I won't go into the specific details, but it's still used in the text field. State and country pick lists do have their limitations. Regular pick lists, of course, have their limitations as well. As soon as you get outside of just your own country, if you're a multinational organization, we have states, and then there's provinces. Mexico has states. Other countries have states and provinces. You're gonna run up against the limits of those pick lists real quick. So not that you can't do it, it's just be very mindful of how much you're putting into a pick list before you do it.
We've had problems with integrations with other vendors too, because they will insist on using a certain version, either a text string or a code, but it can only be directed at one field. And if you have your integration field on the pick list set to 2-character codes, well, they can't do that. If you have it set to a string, but they want a code, you can't accommodate that. And yeah, like I said, if I could go back in time.
Yeah, this is Stuart, and I would agree with that last statement. That what we found was we were able to use state and country pick lists, but then when trying to integrate it with a third-party marketing system, their API was trying to read the pick list information and was having a hard time to do any sort of searching on the state information. I think it was because of the way that state and country pick lists were created. But that's merely a guess.
Thank you,
It's
Stuart.
not really a pick list. It's something different. But it's not necessarily a pick list.
Corey Snow is saying that state and country pick list uses ISO values. I don't know what ISO stands for except in search of.
International, standardized, something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the difficulty there is that, you may find that you're using something else, or the system you're integrated with might not be using ISO values. And in that case, you're going to have to do some kind of translation in between anyway. So if you've got, what I've found is that if you have several sort of integrated systems, it's likely they're all going to use a slightly different standard or no standard, or their own standard. So one strategy that you can use is kind of figure out what you want all of these things to be derived to, and then build kind of translations in. And it just depends how many different systems you're integrated with. This is a really common kind of challenge. If you're integrated with web forms, or you're integrated with email marketing systems, or other things that collect state and countries, it's kind of a wild west with the standards. So sometimes it's good if you can just sort of pick your own and then use kind of translate them into that form based upon what the integrated systems are using. So build like a whole kind of mapping across all the different ones, and then derive what you're looking for using sort of standard automation capabilities like workflow rules.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Did you have any other questions, Marty, or did we get them?
I'll be quiet for now. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for your questions. They're always good ones. All right. Who else has a question? Or a topic or a curiosity? Robert Pope. I'm going to unmute you. Oh, wait. Maybe you unmuted yourself.
I can unmute myself.
Okay.
How are you guys doing?
Fantastic.
We are relatively new in adopting Salesforce in our organization, and I was wondering if anybody had any pointers and gotchas for a QuickBooks Enterprise integration.
I don't have any experience with QuickBooks. Dale, do you?
Nope, I don't.
Or I guess any experience managing financials in Salesforce.
Financials, no.
We could probably find someone for you, but.
Okay. And then also I was wondering if you could give me like a high level, how most organizations use orders versus opportunities.
Orders come after opportunities. So your opportunity would be we're deciding if we can do business with you. Are you qualified? And then the order comes in later. I haven't seen anyone use just orders.
Okay, so usually you'll use like opportunities for revenue forecasting and then orders for your actuals.
That is what I have seen, yes.
Okay.
And then in between, you could use, if you needed to, you could use quotes.
Okay.
And then you'll probably need price books if you go that far.
Right.
On price books, do you, like we, for example, have like member and non-member pricing. Do you usually organize, because I've seen some people want to organize our price books a little bit differently. Like, for example, some people want to organize a member price book versus a non-member price book. And other kind of more departmental people who are in their silos we want a conferences price book and we want an institute price book. And, you know, what's kind of the best way to slice and dice your price books if you're using that approach?
I've seen them segregated by line of business or country. So you can really, I guess you'd have to ask the question is, how does everybody think about their price books right now? So if you went to the old notebook version way, how would that be organized for somebody to pull off the shelf and go find the product?
Okay, yeah, because I think right now our finance department and then our different business units are looking at it differently. I wasn't sure if there was a best recommended approach or not.
I would probably put on the hat of the end user to go and find the product that they're looking for and what makes sense and work that way.
Okay, I know our site is segregated kind of by business area. The trick comes in when you have an opportunity where somebody, say, is purchasing a thing in two different business areas, because you can't use multiple price books, in my understanding, in a single opportunity.
Correct. Yep.
And I think that was why we were looking at member, non-member, because we know that it would be one price book or the other, but it's hard to put together an opportunity that has, say, something from the publications department and something from the professional development department in the same order if they're in two separate price books.
Dale, what have you seen?
I will actually say I've never had to work with price books and quotes and that particular piece.
Okay. Has anybody else used price books? So I think the other thing you'd want to look at is the number of products that you have. Logically, from a salesperson's perspective, you know, where would they go to find that product? What do they have to, because there's not a way to, well, you've got product families that you would assign them to, and then you could search that way as well in that one product, in that one catalog. How many products do you have?
That's kind of funny enough, another question. We offer professional development workshops. So one idea is, you know, the product is a workshop, and then there's also, well, maybe the product is the type of workshop, like new to online essentials or something like that. Or maybe the product is all the way down to the cohort level of saying the product is the main offering of that workshop. Right now we're looking at contracting with Fontiva, and the way their data is structured, it would probably be one product per cohort. And if that's the case, then we'd have several hundred products.
I guess the other thing that I would offer up to think about is what kind of reporting do you need to do on the products?
Well, you know, that's one of the things too that I was wondering is, if people aren't using price books, how are they going about modifying their prices if they're in a membership organization, do they have some sort of other logic or flow to identify that this is a member account to reduce the price off of the standard price book? I mean, I might be overcomplicating it with even having price books.
If people are not using price books and products within Salesforce, they're using it in some other system, an ERP system, or some other system altogether. Sometimes they will push it back into Salesforce. Sometimes they just go, no, it's just going to live in this other system.
Okay, we're looking to go all in with Salesforce.
Okay, so I think if I were tackling this project, the questions that I would answer is what do I need to report on? I would keep in mind that I can always add custom fields to the product page layout. Mm-hmm. So I might look at, would it make sense, and I'm totally spitballing here, I haven't done it, but would it make sense to, you have your class name or your seminar name, and then you're going to have that every so many weeks or what have you, but you manage it, the timing of it through a custom field.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense. 'Cause, I mean, that's one of the things too, where I think the approach we were looking at, and maybe I'm just needing a little bit of validation to make sure that this approach makes sense, was in products. So for example, have product family, which would be like our business units, and then a product category and subcategory. And then possibly even a cohort date on the product field. And then for price books, have member and non-member for my price books. And I think that would be able to give me drill down capability to report on products using a product line item report, and be able to use some pricing rules in the shopping cart that leverage price book functionality.
That sounds right. I would say build it in your sandbox and test it.
Okay.
I'm missing the need for the cohort piece. Wouldn't the specific cohorts be that is the opportunity there, isn't it? So the products and price books are the kind of template of what you sell, and the prices at which you sell them. But then the specific cohorts of, here we're gonna sell this product at this particular price to these particular people, that's the actual opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Tied to the account. Yep.
So you may be making it over complex.
And the other thing you might want to be using, if you're trying to keep track of like contacts, which contacts are a part of that deal, is you would want to use opportunity contact roles if you're considering people to be the cohorts.
I know that we're going to have kind of custom objects to keep track of the registration to these cohorts. And that and those contacts will probably be attached to some sort of registration object, I would imagine. As far as on the opportunity, I'd imagine like some of the contact roles might be, say like the buyer or maybe the influencer on the opportunity. Is kind of how we were thinking about it.
Okay, and in our so I work at a membership organization, and so we have all of our donations are memberships, and we have premiums and events that go along with that, and we know that someone is a member based on that. Based on that account or contact that's purchasing it. So the opportunity product object has that information of, are they a member, and if they would get any discounts by their membership would all be in that object, not in the product itself. The product still has its price and its value, and that's the same no matter what, but it will change based on the opportunity product object and who's buying it or who's receiving it as a premium of their membership.
So you only have one price book, and then you have some sort of rule in place that if the person is a member, you just kind of knock like X% off of their opportunity?
Something like that, yes.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, but it's based on the opportunity drives that of the rules around the opportunity, but we don't change the price or the value of that product. It remains the same, and we have one price book for all of our products.
So then I'm assuming that you do, like when you're doing revenue forecasting, then you just do it off of the opportunity value.
Yes.
And then if you want to figure out like how much revenue something's generating, you can pull that off of the orders.
Yep. Yeah, we look at the past 6-12 months of opportunities and then forecast based on that.
Okay, because I did think that that having the cohort data stored in the product kind of makes us have to store an unnecessarily large number of products when we could just have like a, you know, tie it to a registration anyway. But it's also one of those things, I know with the way Fontiva administers it, it seems to be kind of a limitation of Fontiva in how their event objects work. So whenever a new cohort is created, basically it spins up a new project, a new product. And trying to figure out where the, being able to say, actually, no, we don't want you to spin up a new product, just use the workshop product, and then we can have the registrations be, you know, a related list, for example, or something like that. It does seem like their approach does end up causing a lot of redundant data.
So I've been in organizations that have done it both ways. I tend to, my personal opinion, tend to like to have less products. The more products and price books that you have, to me, is harder to maintain.
Okay.
But that's just you could probably talk to 10 other people and have 9 other different answers, you know, but just from my point of view, I would rather keep that information on the opportunity side, and on, if you had a custom registration object, that also sounds like a good place to store that data.
Okay. Yeah, I might push for a little bit of customization there then by the Fontiva team, because it's one of those things I don't want to push like 800 products to the finance system if I don't have to, if it can just be workshop, because that's all they're going to care about.
Great.
Have you guys
I'll just jump in. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Corey, just really quick. Have you already signed a contract with, you said Fontiva?
Eminent.
Okay. What I was going to suggest, and my best practice is anytime I'm going to work with a partner who I know that I'm going to ask for customization that is outside their norm, even though they say, yes, 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 we can do it, I always have them do a proof of concept in my sandbox before I sign the contract.
Okay.
Because once you sign the contract, you can't get out of it.
Right. No, that makes sense.
But if you say, you know, I'm happy to sign this contract, but we've got these customizations that I need to know are 100% going to work, which means you need to know what you want and be able to convey that to them through pictures or what have you. And then that puts the fire under them to make sure that they get the right engineers on the line with you to make sure that they understand it and they can build it. And you've now gone beyond that, the salesperson, and you're into the people who actually build the stuff.
Okay. I appreciate that. It's kind of one of those things where, like, at the 11th hour and 59 minutes with them, we did have access to the sandbox, and I saw that that's how it worked. It is one of those things that they do have enough where we'd still go ahead with them anyway on the demonstration that we have seen. But it's one of those things, the CFO may have already signed it.
Okay. And that, yeah.
But I'll definitely keep that in mind going forward.
Yeah, it will save you a lot of heartache, and will put you in the right. It makes you the right representative for your organization, because then you know you're getting what you're asking for, and there's no backpedaling.
Okay.
All right, thank you for that. Thank you, Stuart, for sharing your experience.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
All right, anybody else have a question or a topic?
So Pat McClellan, who was asking us about the browser issues before we started the call, has a question about logging into the various communities. So Pat, want to unmute?
Sure. Yeah. So I think it's probably something that lots of us deal with. At any given time, I might have 2 orgs or 3 orgs or 4 orgs going at once on my machine, and when I need to go into partner community or the dev forum or success community or one of those places that uses Salesforce login, it tries to log in with the org that I most recently logged in with, which may or may not be the one that I use, on an ongoing basis to track my threads. Is there a best practice on this? Has somebody figured out this thing?
Oh yeah. So there's, first of all, what org are you using as your actual, this is what I contribute to the community with? Is it your production org or is it a dev org?
It's a dev org. It's my partner dev org.
There you go. That's a good start. So yeah, because then it's transportable with you. If you were to ever leave your company, go to a different company, whatever, your dev org is yours, not your company's.
Yeah.
So going back to the whole Chrome versus Firefox thing, I finally decided to create my own dev org and link it to a Salesforce specific email address, which is Gmail, which is its own Google Chrome or my own Google account. So I have my, this green, this tealish layout that you see here.
Yeah.
This is that Chrome account, and it is only used for community. As a consultant, I have a completely different Chrome account. You see, I have multiple listed here. I have my wife, one that my wife and I share. I have my personal one. I have my MVP account. I have my user group hours, whatever. When I then get into actually doing client work, I use a completely different Google account that I then know I have this visual. If I'm logged into multiple orgs for whatever reason, don't then go to the success community from here. Go to my tealish blue one here, because I know this is the one that is tied to the one community profile and partner profile as well, for that matter, that I want to use for that stuff. So I separated it at the browser level.
Oh,
just to mitigate
I have an
any
idea.
risk.
Oh, Stuart's on it. I was going to say what Stuart's saying. You have a look at the organizer plugin for Chrome. It also works for Firefox. If you want, I can show my screen. Is that okay?
yep.
I can do that, or I pulled up the link that Stu put in the chat.
So we have over 40 orgs at our university, and I have production credentials on 12 or 13 of them. I've got over probably have 50 developer orgs. I've got in aggregate, I've got over 100 orgs that I manage. So the way I do that is, I think this is the best tool, is Organizer. It'll come up.
So this is a Chrome extension?
Well, so I guess but does Organizer then help you solve the issue of which ID you use for the community?
So you can sort of toggle between these, and then the community is going to go. This allows you to have a lot of sessions within the same browser. It just kind of works. And then the one for the community is a little bit sketchy, so it does kind of need to be the last one that you logged in. But what I usually log onto the community either in a different Chrome instance, like you're saying, a different persona, or I'll do it in incognito mode if I just can't get the cookies to behave. But in terms of kind of the multi-org situation that you're describing, this is a really great tool. Like, these are all orgs that I log into. I'm able to group them together. So these are all kind of the same org with their sandboxes, for example. It's a bunch of dev orgs that I use. This is another org. This is another org from another department. More orgs, right? And this is pretty good. It has some nice features, like you can open a new tab. Open a new window. You can open, and this is what I was going to show you. You can open in incognito mode. So,
Corey, hang on one second. I'm not seeing your screen. I don't know if anybody else is.
No.
my.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I didn't realize you were trying to display.
Oh, I thought I'd already done the sharing thing.
All right, I stopped sharing my screen. You should be able to pull up, or you should be able to show or to share from your end.
See if it works.
Not yet.
We're getting there. One more step.
Okay. Corey now.
How's that?
There.
Perfect.
Nice. So it is still true that with the community, it's going to try to log onto a specific org. So right now, I might have 5 different orgs logged in the same Chrome session. The community will try to go in, but if you see with these, they're not popping up now, but the red box will log into an org in incognito mode with one click. So that's a quick way to get to the community as to log in incognito mode here with one click, and then log into the community. And that's kind of the way I handle it, because the cookies are so sticky. But these are kind of nice. Another nice feature of this is that you can change the color of the icon for your different orgs. So even if your tabs, like I have 1 million tabs up, you can see, but I know this green one, that's the production org. It was specific for specific production org. I know what that is. If that were pink, I would know that that's the full sandbox for that same org, and so forth. And you also have the ability to label them with a short kind of name, so that when you hover on them, it shows kind of your own label instead of the really long Salesforce URL. So it's just a great way of managing a lot of orgs for really low effort, and it's free. So something to consider.
Great. Thank you.
Those are some cool tips. Thank you.
Yeah, but just back to the main thing, the way that those communities work is it always looks at the last org you logged into. Is that right?
That appears to be the case. I've tried to figure out some other formula, but that seems to hold up pretty well. And that happens to me a lot, and what's bad about that in my case, right, is that it'll sort of create an account on that org, and if it's not really my org, I'm just kind of visiting, it creates another instance of me. And
Yeah, the worst, exactly. And then, it'll bring up the login with Salesforce, and then there's sometimes a link there that says, no, this isn't me, which takes you back to the main login, but it leaves the domain up in the bar, so you can't just log in with another one. You have to go to like a fresh login screen. It's just tedious.
Yeah, it's
Which
messy.
is why
On the Power of Us Hub, it'll create a new identity. So, then you'll wind up with identities you didn't intend to have in the first place. So
Exactly.
It does get messy.
Which is why a safe path is if you just go into a completely different instance of a browser, like even with Chrome, you still need to either go into incognito or if you have multiple Google accounts, those session settings are not going to hop across.
So you've got two browser windows open on different Google accounts or different.
Oh,
Chrome?
yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So this one is, and then I know I've made my behavior. This particular Chrome account is exclusively community.
Dale, go ahead and share your screen.
Oh.
Yeah, your teal one. Okay.
I was. I was. So yeah, this I know from a visual cue. I put this bluish tealish skin on my SFDC community Google account, and all Salesforce activity on it is exclusively community. When I then get into my consultant life, I created a whole entirely different Google persona to then get a different skin, a different set of bookmarks, a different set of everything as that visual indicator of if I need to go to the community and I'm in an org, do not do it here. Flip over to this guy here.
Got it. Okay.
The session settings, your session settings will not hop across Google accounts, period.
Okay. All right, thanks.
I do the same as Dale. It works pretty well. I've got sort of my MVP Google identity. I've got my user group identity, and then those are tied to the places in the community that I go with those identity. I have another one that I use for Trailhead, So like my Trailhead identity is yet different, and I have a different Chrome persona for that.
Yeah, I do the same thing. And I'll even do the same thing with that for a few troubleshooting accounts as well, for non-Salesforce stuff.
Got it. All right. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, guys. We've got a couple questions in the queue. Let's go. Hey, Scott's got a question. Scott, I'm going to unmute you.
Actually, Corey and Jen were ahead of me.
Oh, okay. Such a gentleman. All right. Hang on one second. Okay, Jen, I've unmuted you. Go ahead.
So I have two questions. My first one was, I have users that have read-only access to accounts, and they're trying to attach a note or add a note or attachment, and they can't. Is that really how it's supposed? I don't remember off the top of my head, so I'm like,
Well,
I'm sorry. The account is public read. That's why they have read on the account.
If my Chrome session would just respond, I could click over to org-wide default and we could take a look, but it's decided to freeze up.
Is it on the org-wide default?
Well, it would be controlled by the parent object. So if account is read, then something like notes under it is likely controlled by the parent.
Oh, okay. Let me take a look at that.
Not necessarily an independent setting. And notes is an object, but it's not an object. It's, I mean, it follows its own set of weird rules because it's a very locked in entity, unlike other like custom objects. Seriously, Chrome, come on. I really, really want to click over because I'm sure the answer's back there.
Yeah, so my account is public read only.
Right, which would then mean any notes that reference an account detail record will also be read only.
So that's only for note and attachment, because they can create opportunities off of that account.
Well,
they only need read for opportunities.
So opportunity would be controlled in a completely independent way from notes. Opportunities could be controlled by parent, or it could be freestanding, private, read only, full access.
Okay.
Whatever.
Then I tried to share manually with them that record, and it's not letting me because of my org-wide settings. I tried to give them read-write access, and I'm getting an error message.
What does the error message say?
Hold on, let me do it now. And I'm like, wow, I can't, unless I implement account teams, and like, this is really painful. Invalid sharing settings. The selected sharing setting is already included as part of your org's default sharing settings.
Oh, and that means you have sharing rules that would already be sharing that record with whoever you're trying to share with, right?
No, I don't have a sharing one. I only have one for portal users, which I don't really use. So.
Here we can turn my screen off if you're able to share. Yeah.
Sure.
Stop share. There we go. All right. You should now be able to hit share screen.
Okay. I'm trying to see which one I should share. Okay. Are you guys able to see my Salesforce?
It's coming up.
Okay. Do you see it?
It's working. It's a black screen. It just says you started sharing your screen. There we go. Yes.
Okay. So you see the account is public read only.
Mm-hmm.
And then my sharing settings, it's a portal role shared with a portal, which I don't really use this. I don't know, this was implemented by the developer before me. So I just.
But then who are you trying to share the record with a full Salesforce user? Or?
With a full Salesforce user, yes.
Okay. Can you click over to the record you're trying to share?
Yeah, so let me just log in as her so I can show you that she has access to it. She can see it because it's public read. She's a full Salesforce user. And she can see the account.
Mm-hmm.
She can create opportunities, can add a task. But when it comes to note and attachments, it's telling her she has invalid, insufficient privileges. Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes sense because
she has read only.
She can edit accounts, but she can't create them. She had the edit key or the edit button.
No, I'll tell her it's insufficient if she tries to edit it.
Right.
She can edit accounts she owns.
Right, but then that trickles down to the notes object that if you can't create an account, you can't create a note.
But she can create a note, but only on accounts that she owns.
Right. Yeah, because at that particular record, she can create, therefore at note she can create.
Right. So I'm trying to share it manually with her to give her read access to it because I know she has read. I'm trying to give her write access.
Okay.
So I'm going to give read write. Should I and I get this error.
I'm still stuck at oh, there we go, now it's caught up. So go back. That flipped really quick. It's like there was a ton of lag.
What was that?
Can you go back and try that again? Because the screen froze.
Okay.
Okay, so you're trying to share with the user. Trying to put in fast.
And I'm going to give her read write.
Okay.
Click on save. I get that error message.
Settings are already included as part of your organization's default sharing settings. So, but is that an account that she already owns and therefore has edit access to?
No, she doesn't own the account.
Is she on an account team?
No, I'm not using account teams. Not yet. The only thought I had was I have to implement account teams, which then impacts all my reports and dashboards and everything. So I have to rebuild all of those.
Is it possible that someone else had already shared with a role or a group? Because if the default for her profile is read only, she shouldn't be able to navigate to that account page and see an edit button. Because she can see an edit button when logged in as her, it has already been assigned to her through some other means. So did another
She has edit rights to the object, but her role prevents her from getting a write access to it because she doesn't own it. Right, so she can edit accounts, the object. If she owns the record, she can edit it. She can create accounts. Her profile allows her to do that. But on the record level itself, she doesn't have. So if she edits this, it gives her insufficient privileges because she doesn't own the record.
Okay, well then I'm at a loss. Anybody else? Because this feels like something customized.
Can we take a look at the profile itself for the user you're trying to share with? And yeah, object settings.
Account. So she has read, create, edit.
And edit.
Okay.
And then
that's why she has the edit button.
Varies.
But not view all, not modify.
Does the record type, is that causing us any problems?
Which one? My org-wide settings is read, public, read.
Well, but record type wouldn't matter because even if your profile hasn't been given the record type, you can still edit records within that record type. You just can't change the record type to that record type.
Right, or create records with that record type.
Right.
and I'm trying to see if I could share it with her and not have to implement account teams, because it's a bigger impact if I implement account teams.
I'm going to ask a really stupid question here. Are you a straight up admin, or do you have some kind of admin minus a few things rights?
I'm an admin.
You are a straight up admin. Okay.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't be the problem.
Could it be that you've got sharing rules that kind of make it work this way, like a custom sharing rule?
The only sharing rule in there was with portal users, and this is a full.
Shared with a portal.
Oh, okay. I get it. That's not going to do it.
And even then, that's read only.
Yeah. It's bizarre because I have public read, so I should be able to give her a right.
So I'm gonna ask if there's any devs or any other admins with all the tools in their belt, but I know there are paid tools that will allow you to put in a record ID and tell you how someone acquired certain accesses to it. Are there any free tools that do that?
Well, one tool you could look at is Perm Comparator. So at least Perm Comparator will show you the sort of access rights in a general sense between two different users. So for example, you could compare yourself as an admin to this person, or better still, if there's somebody who it's working for, and then there's somebody who it's not working for, you can compare them. Or if there's a profile that it's working for and another profile it's not, it will just sort of light up all of those differences. I posted it in the chat. It's a free tool.
But will it go down to? But will that let you go down to a specific detail record? Because I know there are paid tools that will do it. They're not cheap, but are there any free tools?
That's a good question. I don't know how strong that tool is on record sharing rules. It'll show you the differences in settings, but telling you sort of exactly why a specific record allows you to see it or not. I'm not sure. Isn't there's a sharing button though that at least gives you some information?
So I just actually had a thought here. Is sharing an object in? Oh, why am I pulling that up? Let's see. Sharing is an object, is it not? That you could query by record who's been shared with.
You might be able to decipher it in through Workbench or something, just by querying the metadata if you want to get fancy.
So the permissions that you need to attach a file to records is read or edit on the object. I'm looking at the help right now. Which is
okay, yeah, that's why she couldn't attach, because she has read only on that record.
So okay, something for you to look into. Can I take the screen share again?
Yeah, let me stop. There you go.
All right. So are you familiar with Workbench?
Yes, but I haven't used it in a while.
Okay, so you can get in there, choose the SOQL query, and choose the object account share, which will then let you plug in whatever account you're looking for to then essentially give you information on when it was shared and maybe even by who. Because I mean, this scenario that you're walking us through really feels like you're getting this error message because it was all additional permissions were already shared with that user through some other means of sharing, like another manual share. It's just what it feels like, but this might be a good place for you to start. If I try to run this, I don't think anything's going to come back because I'm tapping into my dev org right now where I don't really have much, if any, data that I would share, but account share object will let you at least start to work backwards on that.
Okay.
like, so there are, and this is for everybody, there are paid tools out there. I'm actively working with Metazoa Snapshot, where it will let you put in a detail record, and then it will tell you, and you can also say, pair that with a user, and it will tell you this user is able to read, edit, delete, whatever to this record because of profile level settings or manually shared by, or however that access got to that person. It will give you the full detail of why and how, but it's a paid tool. But from a free standpoint, this is the start, the account share object.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Gosh, Jen, I'm sorry that we weren't able to give you a definitive answer, but hopefully Dale has led you down the right path to figuring it out.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's do a time check. We've got 4 minutes here, and I think we've got one more question. So, Scott, if you want to go ahead and ask your question, that'd be great.
Yeah, quick question about territory assignments using the territory management functionality. Any gonna blow up the world, look out, don't dare do it this way kind of advice for implementing that? I'm reading a lot of stuff about conflicts with sharing rules and role hierarchy interfering with territory management. Just wondered if anybody had any sound bites to that effect.
I've heard that territory management also creates conflict with forecasting. Or maybe it's multi-currency, one or the other, but territory management doesn't play nicely with one or the other of those.
Okay, and we've got both, so there we go. All right, that's all I needed. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Sandbox everything.
All right, anybody else have a question? We've got just 3 minutes.
I don't want to dominate, but I've got just one quick one. I tried to set the IP range on my profile for system admin so that I don't have to do a two-step verification when I log in. And I've set that range on the profile from 0 to the full, it's 254.254.254. It doesn't seem to work. I mean, I've set it, but it still requires me to do two-step verification every time I log in. Am I missing something? Yeah. Really frustrating.
You're talking about logging into Salesforce?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
no, I mean, it really should just be as simple as this. So, like, I don't know.
Yeah, mine is set that way, and it still requires me. It's kind of frustrating.
Is this in a production org, a dev org? What kind of org is it in?
I've got one on my partner business org and one on my partner dev org.
Is it which org is it happening on though?
Both.
Oh, it's on both.
Yeah, I can't seem to get around it.
Stu asks if you have my domain set up.
I do. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Don't forget to check. Carlos. Don't forget to check Lightning Champion Program. Hey, Carlos, does that cover? Not related. Okay. Stu, why would my domain make a difference? That's a good thing. It should work.
Yeah, that's what I thought. All right. Well, one of those niggling things that I'll figure out. All right.
The only thing I could think of on like a production org is if there was some weird batch of code that somebody wrote somewhere in there that said, yeah, I want you to 2FA anyway, but I don't know.
No, I mean, I'm a one-person shop. Nobody has put in any bad legacy stuff or anything. If there's something wrong in there, I screwed it up.
Are you behind a firewall at your shop?
Nope.
Yeah.
I mean, just my Norton security.
Did you consider swearing at it? Because that usually works for me.
I made faces at it. It didn't really work. I don't know. Oh, I had my camera cover, my webcam cover closed. Maybe I'll try that.
Oh yeah, hey, there you go. Yeah, that must have been it.
Yeah. All right. Well,
All right.
thanks.
I don't think.
No idea.
Enough of my login woes. All right, thanks.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the close of our MVP office hours for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we were able to give you some good guidance. Thank you everyone for chiming in and sharing your experiences, because without you, we could not do this. So we appreciate it. Have a great weekend, everyone, and have a safe 4th of July. Take care.
Thank you. You too.